Hello, everyone. Welcome to this month's interview episode of the Femdom Mystique podcast. As you know, I am your hostess, Mistress Simone, and have had a few whiskeys. Because I'm going to interview two of my dear friends located in St. Louis, the owners of Shameless Grounds Coffee House, Andy and Michelle. Welcome.
Hello.
Hello.
Hi. So I want to let you know that we are still going to focus on femdom energy, but for this interview, I wanted to do something about interviewing someone who's involved in the community and who has made a very big effort into sex positive and opening awareness, and they're just a great couple, so they're fun to talk to. So we're going to interview them. This episode may not necessarily focus just on femdom because they have a different dynamic, which we'll explore. So if you're not interested in learning a little bit about community and a different dynamic, then you can turn me off right now. It's easy to turn me off. Just click that button. Good. If you're not and you want to listen and enjoy a great interview with some great people, then stay tuned as we proceed. So, hello, Andy.
Hello.
Hello, Michelle.
Hello.
Hi.
I would like to state for the record before we begin that we have also had some whiskey.
This is what happens when people come visit me and I say, hey, let's have a mic put in your face. They need libation. And apparently Andy's had a lot of caffeine today.
Always.
Every day.
So for my listeners, I would like either one of you can talk. What I do like to try and do is like one person talk at a time.
Of course.
Tell them a little bit about Shameless Grounds. What is it?
Shameless Grounds is a sex-positive coffee shop. It is based on the idea that you can be whoever you want to and come in and be part of this community of people who think that sex is about more than procreation. It's about caring about other people. It is about physical and mental clarity. It is it's important in our lives for more than just procreation, and it's a place where we try to speak truth about sex when there's so much out there in the world that tries to tell you why sex is bad or why you shouldn't do this or shouldn't do that, and we try and speak to the truth about those things and clear up some of the issues that stem from decades of sex negativity.
That is very admirable and a very daunting task for you two to undertake. Michelle, anything you want to add?
No, he's definitely the wordsmith of the relationship.
I can tell there. So tell me a little bit of background about Shameless for my listeners. When did it come into fruition? How did you guys decide to take on this extremely difficult task, spreading sex positiveness?
We always tell people that the short answer is that we didn't want to move to Southern California.
All right, give me the long answer.
That's the short answer. The long answer is Andy's job was being relocated to
Irvine, California.
Mm-hmm. And since we already owned a home in St. Louis and realized that for the price of our house payment, we would get a studio apartment, maybe if we were lucky, in Irvine, we needed to figure out something else to do. Mm-hmm. And we have been kinky and sex positive since we got together in 97, 98. And had noticed that it seemed like the St. Louis community, alternative lifestyle community, whatever you want to call it, was a bit segregated. Everybody kind of went to their own places, and there was no central spot that everyone could come to and just be. So we started kind of throwing around the idea and came up with the idea of, originally it was just a community space, kind of a not-for-profit thing, and people would just be able to come and use the space and just hang out. And then we started thinking about how that would be difficult to pay rent.
I was going to say, how are you going to make paying rent and eating and surviving
exactly
off of that?
how we would pay our bills. And so
right.
it kind of over several months morphed into, well, we could turn it into a coffee shop that is also a community space, and that way we can pay the bills and pay the rent and make a living basically, and be able to give other people jobs too. So eventually it became what it is now, the Shameless Grounds Cafe, and we opened in 2011.
2011,
April.
Congratulations.
Coming up on 7 years now.
Are you going to have an anniversary party, or just going to walk in and go, woohoo, it's been 7 years, we're still here, yay?
we will probably do a big anniversary party on maybe, say, the 10th anniversary. We had a really great opening party that we called the Cherry Jubilee back when we started, and that went really well. At the 5-year anniversary, we thought about doing the same thing, but at 5 years, we were just getting to the point of being profitable and being able to carry our own, and there was so much work involved in trying to plan a major event that we just kind of let it slide, and we'll probably continue to let it slide until 10 years.
Okay.
10 years, we're going to do something.
We're shooting for 10 years. All right. So I'm going to ask the question that probably many people may have for this is, were you influenced at all by Wicked Grounds?
Wicked Grounds, not so much. Mostly the influence was the CSPC, Center for Sex Positive Culture in Seattle.
Okay.
We met. I think we had heard of Wicked Grounds.
We heard of Wicked Grounds for the first time when we attended Shibarikan.
Yeah. And we actually got to meet Psycho Kitty,
Mm-hmm.
and didn't get to meet his wife at that time. She wasn't there, but I don't know that we realized Wicked Grounds was even open until we met Psycho Kitty, because someone went, oh, hey, you two should meet Psycho Kitty because he runs Wicked Grounds and you're going to be opening this shop in St. Louis. I would love to be able to get away with some of the things that Wicked Grounds can, just because I know there are people in St. Louis that would like to be able to come in and drink coffee out of a dog bowl. But I don't think the Midwest is ready for that yet.
Okay, so let's talk about that a little bit. Let's discuss about the difficulties you may have had or are currently still experiencing with fitting into the Midwest with a sex-positive business. What are some of the hurdles you guys have had to overcome?
Luckily, we have not had too many. Early on, when we decided to open the shop, we went to the neighborhood association and told them our plans, and a couple of folks at the neighborhood association meeting decided that they wanted to speak against us, that they didn't think that a sex positive coffee shop was something they wanted in their community. They were afraid it was going to be, full of bad influences for the children and all of that sort of thing. And luckily, we had a alderman and one of the officers of the neighborhood association, who happens to be a kinky individual herself, totally stood up for us and said, there is nothing they are doing here that is illegal. There is nothing they are doing that is untoward or is going to harm your children. We're going to approve this. We're on board with this.
It must have been challenging, though, to find a location or decide where you guys wanted to be in a residential area. Can present some difficulties, like Andy said. So,
our original location took a little work. I think mostly just because we were brand new at the idea of opening a restaurant and what kind of space do we want, and we've got to have all this space for a library. We knew we wanted a library, and we want the place to be big enough and beautiful enough, and
want it to be open and airy and welcoming, and not look like a kinky skeezy business.
Yeah. We wanted everybody to walk in and feel like they were in a coffee shop, and there happens to be a human sexuality library here too. And people might be having conversations about, what it's like to own a slave or, whatever. I think when we opened, the joke was always, we want people to feel like they're walking into a bread company, just kind of a kinky one.
Which you have succeeded. That is pretty much what it feels like. I was going to say, good job, guys.
So, yeah, when we opened our first location, we were very, very naive about all of the stuff that went into opening a new restaurant. And we made some mistakes along the way. We made some mistakes in the lease for that first location, in spending a lot of our initial money in getting the place up and running. And after our 2-year lease at that initial location was up, we just could not renegotiate with the landlord for another couple of years in that location based on a lot of the mistakes that we had made. And so we ended up going to a new location. We were afraid we were going to have to close for a little while because we were out of money. We didn't have enough money to build out a new location. We had spent a lot of money building out the first location, didn't have any money to build out the next location. Luckily, we found this place that had been a coffee shop and wine bar, so it already suited our needs pretty well. And it was in the same neighborhood where we live, which is an artistic, upscale, college-educated, open-minded, and very community-centered area. And we were incredibly lucky in finding that second shop. It's also that second location. It's also a warm and cozy location with lots of windows, and it met the same sort of feel that we were looking for all along.
Yeah, your location is great. Yeah. So tell me a little bit about some of the nights you have, some of the events you have, some of the groups you have meet. How do you promote the sex positive aspect of the coffee house?
In the beginning, it was there was a lot of contacting different groups and saying, okay, we're a new coffee shop. This is our theme. This is our idea. This is what we want to do for the community. We have this space. If you'd be interested in hosting meetings, please contact us back. It's gotten to the point after almost 7 years that we don't really have to go find groups at this point. I'm sure there are groups out there that I would love to have. But just in the past week, I've booked 3 new events. One book signing,
Nice.
It's going to be great. It's in February. Two murders and a romance. I can't remember what the name of the book is called. It's not actually out yet. It's going to be fantastic. But yeah, book signings, different groups that want to meet. We have a new Fire Players Munch that meets there once a month. We have Little's Night once a month. We have different discussion groups. The Rope Bite St. Louis meets at our shop, and that's a cross-country group. The Switches Symposium, which is a discussion group for BDSM switches. We've got Game Night every Monday, so a bunch of geeky gamers, and I can call them that because I am one. They're there every Monday. We've got Lifestyle Night once a month, which is a meet and greet for the swinger community in St. Louis. We've got a stand-up comedy one night a month, and that's been going on for 3-4 years now. The St. Louis Singles Group, which used to be known as the Kinky Singles Group, meets there. The Queer Caucus, which is another discussion group for anyone that identifies as queer. The Ladies Slosh, which is female-identified rope tops, meets there once a month as just for a discussion group. We have so many different groups, and there are some that don't schedule with us, so I don't even know that they're coming until they show up. The Bisexual Alliance of St. Louis has met at our shop a lot. The Vaginal Fantasy Book Club. they
That's an interesting one. All right.
They read fantastic romance novels and they come discuss things. We've got so many different groups that come in, and it's fantastic just seeing all the different people and how they feel safe in our space and are able to use our library and just utilize the space and be comfortable and feel welcome.
How do you want to add anything, Anne?
I just want to say that it's nice to also have a space where these groups can cross over with each other. One of the reasons we started the shop was because each individual direction of sex positivity in St. Louis seemed to go a different direction on the weekends. The gay folks would go to the gay events, and the queer folks would go to the queer events, and the kinky folks would go to the kinky events. And they didn't have a single space to come together, and just because all of them are all okay with all of the other folks. And it's really, it's encouraging to me when we have a female-identified rope top group meeting in the same place as the Kinky Singles or the Vaginal Fantasy Book Club, and they all kind of cross over at the same place and can be among friends. Mm-hmm. That really kind of sings to me, and that's what that kind of that's probably one of the proudest things I have about owning the shop is getting the community, the people to step outside of their own little group and realize that we're all in this thing together. And it's kind of fun to be able to share that all in one space.
See, and as you and I have had conversations, that, first of all, is something you should be very proud of. It's very hard to do that, and it takes a lot of dedication and the right people to run that kind of space. And you both are very open and welcoming. But, you and I have had conversations that when I first came to the St. Louis area, I came from Chicago, where, okay, we may not always get along. We may sometimes have a little infighting, but we had, Galleria and Leather Rose, where you could have kinky, straight, swingers, queers, any kind of mixture, and we would all be comfortable playing together. And we'd have queer night, and we'd have, femdom night. So when I first came here, I expressed a concern to you, Michelle, that this was kind of weird.
Right.
Yeah. I tell everybody the story of when, John and I started dating. He took me to flog at the VFW, and I walked in and I said, "Where's all the gay boys?" And he went,
"Not there.
At the gay bar." And I said, "Well, can we go to the gay bar?" And he said, "No." And I said, "Why not?" And he's like, "Oh,
it
honey,
just isn't done.
It isn't done here." And I went, "What do you mean it's not done here? This makes no sense to me." It just could not wrap my head around it. And it took me a while, and it was one reason that I didn't really go out into the community in St. Louis, because I didn't find a place where I was comfortable, because I didn't really fit into flog. I couldn't go to the gay bars. Mm-hmm. There wasn't, a femdom area. There wasn't, a queer area. So the fact that you guys have, taken that mantle and done it so well is to be, commended. That's something that's very, very hard to do. Especially in the Bible Belt, Midwest, Missouri, as we are. So I'm going to diverse a little bit from the Shameless Grounds, and the people who are listening and want to come into Shameless Grounds, who are the owners? Who's Andy and who's Michelle? So tell me a little bit about yourself. Spill, big boy.
All right. I am a...
Give me those labels. Come on.
Yeah, I guess I'm a reformed, very upstanding church-going Republican youth. I was the very good. I was the very good Republican boy in the polyester sweater that Mom set out for him in the morning, all the way through high school and early college. I kind of got slapped in the face when I joined the military by the fact that there were all these people who were not exactly like me, when I had grown up with mostly cookie cutter versions of me around me. And all of a sudden there were these completely different people. And then Michelle and I met in a group called the SCA, the Society for Creative Anachronism, which is a medieval reenactment group full of weirdos and dorks and nerds and geeks and wonderful people like ourselves. And they're all totally different. They span a wide variety of humanity. And I was met with all of these people who were not like myself. And they were awesome. And I realized, coming from that kind of cookie cutter little boxes in suburbia background where everybody was like me and anybody who wasn't like me was kind of supposed to be looked at with the side eye. You weren't supposed to quite trust them. All of a sudden, all of these people we're all just folks. We're all just people, and everybody that I met who was not like me was just trying to make it through this life the same way I am. And that's kind of how I made the transition from young Republican to kind of weirdo leftist sex positive advocate.
He jumped ship hard.
Yeah.
Big time.
Big time jump ship. Andy.
Just getting to come across people who are not like you but are awesome people.
Yeah. I did not know that. It's interesting. Okay, so how did you discover you were kinky?
So this is kind of a fun story.
We only have about another 20 minutes.
I'll try and make it quick here. This predates my any idea of sexuality on my part. I was maybe 8 or 10 years old.
Believe it or not, that's not uncommon. Kink sometimes comes first.
Yeah, I was a young kid running around in my parents' backyard in suburbia with the neighbor girl Suzanne. And we would do all of the standard kid stuff. We would, play catch and throw bugs at each other and, standard young kid stuff. And being a bratty young guy at that point, I decided there was this big willow tree in the backyard. I decided it would be fun to take a willow switch and slash it across the back of her legs under her sundress. Yeah.
Talk about non-consensual.
Exactly.
Damn. All right.
It kind of ties in with the whole concept of boys being boys and misogyny, and gets into a big fur ball of ugliness there. But being a bratty kid, I assumed that what she was going to do was grab a willow switch and try and slash me back, and because it was play, that was what was going through my mind. She didn't. She stopped, she froze, and her eyes got as big as saucers, and she kind of wailed, let out this wail, and ran straight to me and hugged me and buried her face in my chest and sobbed into my chest.
You're a bad man.
You're awful. Oh, my God.
And I have no idea. Had nothing to do with sexuality, had nothing to do with boy versus girl. All I knew was that having this person just cling to me and want warmth and safety and protection after I had just heard her somehow sang to me. It somehow cracked open my brain, and I spent the next 20 years after that wrestling with the fact that I really kind of want to hurt you and then make it all better.
Which is the topic we were discussing earlier for my topic of the month, sadism. Mm-hmm. So, how do you... We'll get to you in a second.
No. I love listening to his stories.
That's an awesome story. That's even better than my Wonder Woman story, but, Tell me how, since we're doing sadism this month, how you safely express your sadism, and what does it mean to you? Is it completely physical, just beating someone, or do you enjoy other types of sadism?
Mine is primarily physical. I think I still struggle with my sadism. I get a lot of top guilt with my sadism, and I don't think I have it in me to be emotionally sadistic. I've had a partner in the past who has expressed a desire for strong, heavy-duty humiliation play. I can't do that. I don't think I have it in me to call anybody a pig or a worthless excrement, etc. Because generally I like the people I play with. I want to take care of my toys. I want to hurt them, but then I want to make them all better. Emotional sadism doesn't really work for me. Physical sadism, I kink on hearing the noises. I kink on having someone look up at me with the eyes welling up and the absolute sort of abject fear of
of what may come next, and then being able to soothe that. So I express my sadism mostly physically and usually incredibly reluctantly with people that I have had lots and lots of discussions with, because I fear my own sadism. I am scared of the things that I like, and I don't ever want. I tell people that I am going to play with, I want to hurt you, but I never ever want to damage you.
Right. Which is something that I discussed in the sadism topic, is that the biggest thing as a sadist you have to do is be in control of that beast that's inside you. And hopefully I can recover this episode.
I hope so. I hope so.
I was saying that, as a sadist, I always know when I'm getting close to that point, because I can hear it in my head. I can feel it. It's like a little buzzy bee that's just going, you're getting close to that, point where you're going to go a little too far.
Yeah.
And you have to have the control to stop and pull back.
Yeah.
Sadism does not mean out of control.
Right.
And too many people think that it does.
Far too many.
There's an interesting thing for me in that I have some difficulty playing with truly submissive people, because I really need someone who has the self-control, the self-authority to tell me to fuck off if I start going too far. And I have played with some folks who are truly deeply submissive, and they are too scared to tell me to stop.
Right.
I kind of want that help. I kind of want the additional assistance of having someone who can tell me, nope, we're done now.
And that's a great way to put it. That's a very good thing, because part of what I also said in the sadism topic is, as a submissive or masochist, however you identify, pain slut, you have to be able to say this is going a little too far. And a lot of submissives, their brain isn't wired that way. They want to please, they want to give, they want to submit completely. And if it's what my mistress or my master wants, I should be able to take this, even if there's permanent damage, physical, psychological, spiritual, that's involved.
Yeah.
My goal as a sadist is not to damage you permanently. It's to leave you better off.
Exactly.
Through the pain, through the sensations. And if I'm fucking with your head so that you're totally screwed up and can't function and have a normal life or normal relationship, then that's not the kind of sadist that you should be.
I want to make you happy by making you miserable.
Right. Exactly.
I want to be an ethical sadist.
Yes. Like an ethical slut. You're an ethical slave. Yes, we're an ethical sadist. We're going to steal that for a while. All right. So that was probably one of the best beginning stories I've heard in 25 years. That was so awesome.
That's why I was clapping silently.
That was just a great story. I've heard all kinds. My mother gave me enemas. I got to see my mommy's panties. My daddy hit me with a bride. But that was just fantastic. So can you top that?
I don't think I
Your
can.
turn.
I don't think I can top it. I have always been very sexual. I think I discovered masturbation when I was about 5, which is actually pretty common for girls.
That's
I think
that's common for girls.
But
Between 5 and 8, I think, is when we start. Right.
I very clearly recall that the fantasies always involved me being tied up, me being kidnapped, me being forced to do things that I didn't want to do. It was always very, just very kinky, very, sometimes there was pain involved in the fantasies. Sometimes it was, being chased through the jungle and being, hunted basically. But then there were also fantasies, and this was well before I knew what a switch was, but there were also fantasies of making people cry. And in fact, I had a neighbor boy for a little while, for a few years, that when we would play, sometimes the games were him chasing me, sometimes the games were me chasing him. Tying him to the tree in my backyard.
I think we all did that. I swear to God.
and I always
Wonder Woman. Come on,
right.
You're Steve Trevor.
I'm a 70s kid. Yeah, I'm Wonder Woman in my underoos, and
Right.
I'm in charge now. And you will do everything I say and answer my questions because I have a lariat of truth.
Which I did. It was really funny.
Oh, nice. But yeah, I don't know that I ever really thought about it being kinky. I never really thought about that because, okay, so my labels are,
We're on a date night. What are your labels?
Cis, female, could pass for hetero, but I'm not. Mostly hetero. Let's see. Kinky, poly, Reformed Catholic.
Now that explains everything right there. Yeah.
Grew up Catholic, 12 years of Catholic school, including 4 of those at an all-girls
That
school.
explains why she's a masochist.
I would just like to say for the record that her Catholic high school did not have uniforms, so I have been cheated out of the Catholic school girl
That is not
uniform
true.
pictures.
My Catholic high school did not have plaid. We wore navy blue.
I don't know. I'm still with Andy. He's been cheated. I think we need to get her into plaid for Halloween. Let's have a school night at Crack Fox and make you wear one.
Okay.
Yeah, you just switched her up, right? Check it out. Okay.
So, yeah, that's, I think Andy's story definitely beats mine.
Well, yeah, but you know. So, how did you two? You said you met in SAA.
SCA. Mm-hmm.
So, while we know SCA is another word for kinky fucks.
It is.
In fact, they're
It is
mentioned in
the Ethical Slut.
Ethical Slut
Yes.
as a place to meet other poly people.
Yes.
The joke is that it stands for the Society for Consenting Adults.
That is pretty much what we were. I also was a card-carrying member in Illinois. Way
Yes.
back. Yes, which my husband thinks is funny. He shows people pictures. Look at her. Yes, she's dressed in garb. Yes.
We actually, the first time we really talked to each other was at a Halloween party. And
That's not completely true.
this is when I really
Birthday party.
noticed you.
Yeah.
One at a time talking. I'm talking
See,
now.
she's taking charge.
I know. Look at that. Woohoo, there's the femdom.
It was a Halloween party, and the theme was come dressed as you would if no one was judging you. I think something like that.
All right.
And the guy I was dating at the time was the one throwing the party, and Andy came dressed as a Freudian slip. He was wearing.
How did he do that?
He was wearing a half slip, black socks, dress shoes, a tweed blazer, a black turtleneck, had a name tag on that said Siggy, and had his pipe in his mouth, and was walking around to all the party guests saying, "Tell me about your mother," like in this fantastic German accent.
That would get my attention.
Yeah.
That would get my attention.
And 6 months later, we were dating, and 2 weeks later, we were engaged, and yeah.
So you took it slow.
Yeah, very slow.
Okay.
Very
Got it.
slow.
Got it. Okay, so did you guys both know you were kinky right off the bat? Was it a sense that you had?
We both knew that we were kinky. There was some kink element to this party.
Mm-hmm.
We both went in knowing we were kinky. Things got a little clouded for a little while after we were married, and then all came back around in the end. There's a somewhat involved story in there that's fairly personal that I will happily relate, but I don't know how much time we have.
We're okay.
All right. So we made it. I like I said, I have struggled with my kink for a long time, growing up young Republican and thinking that I was this terrible person for liking to hurt pretty girls. And I struggled with that for quite a while, into and even beyond our marriage, because I knew I was attracted to her because she was kinky and she would share this stuff with me, but I was too uptight and too bound up in my head to actually ask her to share it with me very much. That came to a head several years into our marriage, about 6 or 7 years into our marriage. I had retreated from her and taken up refuge in online porn and kink and BDSM, and I was getting most of my kink through that rather than putting myself out there and asking her for it, because I was afraid she would judge me for all these horrible things in my head.
So it was safe.
Yeah.
It was. That is not uncommon.
And
it all came to a head, and we ended up going and getting some counseling. And I came across a wonderful website that I hope is still out there, because I would like to plug it if that's okay with you.
Okay.
It's called twobigmeanies.com. And it was run by someone out in Seattle, and it was kinky connected porn. It was people doing the kind of kink that I wanted to share with her. It was real people in real relationships having real kink, not scripted, not shot for a porn studio, and it was awesome. It was all the kind of sex positive that I wanted in my life with Michelle, and I shared that with her at one point after some of the counseling, and I said, I'm kind of squinting and I'm grimacing and I'm ready for her to tell me I'm a horrible person,
right.
And I'm like, this is what I want. And she kind of is tapping her foot and looking at me, going, I've known this all along, you moron. Let's do this.
I've known you for 8 years. Hurt me already.
Right.
Yeah.
What took you so long? Let's go. Here's the whip.
And so we kind of struggled through that, and then everything just got all better.
Yeah.
So how did you deal with that? Him shutting himself off.
Oh,
and
it
pulling
was
away.
It was terrible.
Then,
It was terrible. Yeah, I won't say I was raised in a 1950s the wife must make her husband happy household, but my parents have been married for 30 something years. No, 45 years at this point. They're still together. And they have a very great, they have a fantastic relationship. I had a really good model for how a marriage works and how it is work. And it was that was something I couldn't talk to my mom. I couldn't talk to my parents about.
Right.
Oh, my husband and I have stopped having sex because he's addicted to online porn. I had no one to talk to.
Right.
At that point in our lives, we weren't active in the kink community in St. Louis. We had friends sort of in the SCA, but due to another long story about us getting together, we had kind of dropped out of the SCA for reasons. So really, it was just the two of us. And then it became just me and him and the computer. And there were a lot of sleepless nights. There was a lot of soul searching. There was a lot of, oh my God, what am I going to do? I love this man, but we haven't had sex in 8 months. Yeah.
Bad man. Bad man.
He won't touch me. I don't know what to do about it.
Right.
And it finally took me leaving one night. I just left. I packed up some things and left him a note and drove around for hours and ended up at a hotel. And we finally, when I told him where I was, said, okay, we need to fix this. We've got to either fix this or we're done, and we'll figure out how to do the divorce and what to do with the house, and because I can't live like this. And so after the counseling, which was fantastic, it taught us how to talk to each other, which led to everything else in our lives, how to run a business together and work together and live together and just be together 24/7, how to be poly, how to navigate that, how to navigate being kinky and having different kinks.
Right.
And, realizing that, we're still two individuals, but we have chosen to live our lives together and be together for the past 20 years. As weird as it sounds, I think that year of our marriage, as terrible as it was probably the best thing to ever happen to our relationship.
No, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Because it made you guys stronger as a couple and revealed your real selves.
Right.
So that makes complete sense.
Right.
So let's talk a little bit about the poly.
Okay.
So did the kink come first and then the poly? The poly come first,
Yeah.
and then the kink, and
Well, I think that the poly has probably always been there. Neither one of us was ever really good at monogamy.
Right.
Never. I think we were both serial monogamists. We would be in a relationship until we cheated on that person, and then be in a relationship with the person we cheated on. And I think that was pretty common for both of us.
I think so, yeah.
But we were successfully monogamous in our relationship for 13 years.
Yep.
13 years.
so what made you decide to open it up to poly again?
It was kind of a transition from kink. We each have a few different kinks. We share a lot of kinks, and we have a few that are different. And I think, if I remember correctly, the kink that made us kind of start down the poly road was your enjoyment of blood play and cutting and needles.
You and I need to talk about that.
And that is not.
That was like your operator voice.
I did. That was my night clerk voice. Yes.
That is something that Michelle really likes. It doesn't do anything for me. I don't hate it. I don't dislike it. I don't judge it. But I'm no good at it. I've never done it. And it doesn't really do anything for me. And I knew that she really liked it. So I think at one point we basically had a discussion. And I said, I can do this for you if you want me to. But I don't know what I'm doing. So there's going to be a learning curve. And I don't want to mess up on you. And
Sorry about your artery.
yeah.
Thank God there. Self-aware sadism.
Yeah. And B, if I do this for you, it's really completely in a service top role. I'm getting nothing out of this. I'm just doing it to make you happy, which is okay if you want that. But if you want the whole experience and there is someone you know who is good at this and that you want to share this with, I would be okay with someone else, with you finding this from someone else. That kind of led to discussions about, kink play with others in the kinks that we didn't share. And then that led to discussions about, well, I've always really felt like I wanted to play with others, but I've never felt free to ask you for that. And then it kind of morphed from, well, if someone's going to take a scalpel and cut a design into you, is it really any more intimate if they're kissing you?
Right.
And discussions kind of just morphed from there and snowballed. And finally one night I said, I really would like to be able to date, kiss, fuck, fall in love with whatever, someone else, because I love you and I'm not going anywhere, but I also feel like I can love someone else as well. And that
Did not go well.
did not go
I was
well.
going to say, that one probably didn't go well.
That did not go well.
No.
It doesn't go well with a lot of women.
Yeah.
Like I said,
Sorry.
lots of years of Catholic school.
Right.
Grew up Catholic.
We have more whiskey, don't worry.
In my head, we chose to get married. We chose to be monogamous, and that's what you're supposed to do. And once you find the one, that's your person, and you're not supposed to want to do any of these other things. And even though part of my own brain was saying to me, yeah, this is completely reasonable, and there are things that you would like to do with other people. There are other people you find attractive. So yeah, this is reasonable. That was happening in one part of my head. The rest of my head was screaming at me, no, you're wrong. What? Oh my God, your mother's going to have a heart attack if she finds out about this. What's she going to say? How are you going to explain this to people? Your friends won't understand. No one will understand. Everyone will think you're just a terrible person. So yeah, it didn't go well. And there were probably from the initial time, the initial mention of poly to us actually deciding it was okay, there was probably a year and a half of the two of us fighting and crying and talking and fighting some more and thinking about it and trying to figure out how it would work. And yeah, I think by the time we started by the time we officially declared ourselves as poly, we had probably been together 14 years at that point, let's say.
Right.
Yeah, I'm going to say 14 years.
And I would like to add that I think the one thing that probably led to us being successful at poly, and I think we have been pretty much so far, is the fact that we both found relationships, found someone that we wanted to date seriously at the same time.
That does help.
That worked.
That helped
definitely
immensely, because if she was
Right.
dating someone and I didn't have anybody to date, I would be all jealous and where's mine and yada yada.
Right. Stomping
And
your feet.
vice versa. If I had somebody to date and she was not dating, then she'd be like, "Oh, he doesn't love me anymore." And we found good people to date at the same time, and we got to experience the joy of dating someone new, that new relationship energy, that giddy sort of puppy love thing, and get to see the other person getting that at the same time. And it was a very positive thing. It was a poly word is compersion. You get to take joy in seeing your partner being happy, even though it's not you making them happy.
Okay, so I want to start wrapping things up a little bit. So what I'd like to do is, obviously we have more we could talk about, so we'll have to have you guys back later. But for those who are interested in poly, which is something I have not really talked about on the Femdom podcast, because we just haven't got there yet, what would you, Andy, say would be the one thing you would give them for advice? And then Michelle, what would you say? If they're the same, that's fine, but...
I would say if you are coming from monogamy into poly, take it slow. Expect that there's going to be some toe stubbing and some knee scraping along the way. It's not a perfect and easy transition all the time. And lots and lots and lots of talking and raw feelings. You gotta make yourself vulnerable, and you gotta be compassionate to the vulnerability of your partner or partners as they come along. It's really a lot of empathy is involved. And so, yeah, take it slow and be a kind person to your partner and your partners.
Perfect.
Yeah, all of that, really. Knowing how to and being willing to talk to your partner.
Definitely.
It's, it sounds like such a simple thing.
But it's not.
But it's not.
Communication's not.
Being able to open up to your partner, for example, me to say to Andy, it's really making me upset that you keep taking all your dates to this restaurant that we used to go to before we were poly. It's a vulnerable thing to say. But it lets your partner know how you feel. Just being able and willing to talk about every feeling you have, and being able and willing to listen to your partner talk about every feeling they have. Because sometimes you just want to say, "Oh my God, you've said this 14 times before. I don't want to hear it." But if your partner has said it 14 times before, it means that they still want you to hear it. They still need you to hear it.
It's still bothering them.
You need to listen.
Right.
And Google Calendar is your friend. That's
Google Calendar is your buddy.
It's a big joke in the poly community, but really, knowing what everybody's doing and where everybody is all the time is really helpful. It really is.
What? We don't go with the old, handkerchief or tie on the doorknob anymore?
That's the micro version. The macro version is Google
It's a
Calendar.
Google Calendar. All right, got it. Anyway, all right, so let's bring it back around for a few minutes to Shameless Grounds. What is your hope for the future with Shameless Grounds?
That's a good one. We have spent so long just kind of putting out fires and keeping things going from day to day. We haven't had a lot of time to dream big. I have, when we first started the shop, the idea was community center, then outreach and education, and a country retreat where you could do all the sorts of fun and naughty and naked things that you can't do in the city at the community center. Well, community center morphed into a coffee shop in order to pay the bills, and the outreach and education arm was pretty much taken up by Sex Positive St. Louis, and we didn't feel like we wanted to duplicate all their efforts, so we just support them instead. The country retreat thing is something that I've wanted to do for ages, and have nickeled and dimed and done a little bit here and a little bit there, and we put so much effort into keeping the cafe going that I haven't had a lot of time and effort to put into the country retreat. But we're getting there, and we're starting that, and I've started some work on the property that we have down in South Central Missouri. my big goal is to get that up and running sometime in the next year or two.
Oh, fun.
So, yeah.
Fingers crossed.
Fingers crossed.
That's a big step. That's a big next step.
Got to keep putting out the fires and make sure they stay tamped down so that I have enough time and energy to work on this other project.
Okay. Michelle?
Yeah. My goals are still really the same as they are every year. Keep the place running. Make sure that the employees are happy and comfortable, and that any group that feels like they need a space, especially in today's political climate, I want them to feel welcome there.
Right.
The day after the election was one of the hardest days I've ever had to work. I'm actually tearing up a little thinking about it. There were so many people that walked into my shop that morning after the election just looking for someone to hug. Mm-hmm. I am not a touchy-feely person, and I gave so many people hugs that day and just listened to people worry about what kind of world their children would be living in for the next 4 years, and whether or not they'd be safe. 2 of our employees started carrying knives after the election because they were worried about their own safety. Just walking down the street, and my goal is to just keep my place open and give people a safe place to go. That really is.
Which we greatly appreciate. It's what I consider the community in St. Louis. So you know me, I don't get out a lot here. Variety of reasons. But Shameless is one that is near and dear to my heart, and I think is very vital for the community because there is no prejudice, there is no judgment. It's a warm, welcoming place, and I think that we need more of those.
We call ourselves Switzerland a lot.
That works.
Yeah.
That works.
Yeah.
So if someone in St. Louis or visiting wants to learn more about Shameless Grounds, how do they do so? Where are you guys located? What's your website? This is the plug area.
Plug.
So the website is shamelessgrounds.com. Easy to find, easy to remember. Our calendar's on there, so you can always see what kind of events are going on. We are located about 3 minutes from Anheuser-Busch Brewery near downtown St. Louis. The address is 1901 with Nell. The neighborhood is called Benton Park. It's lovely. It's beautiful. As Andy mentioned earlier, it's filled with artists, musicians, creative people, lots of great little restaurants and bars and fun things to do. So,
including a kinky sex positive.
Including a sex positive coffee shop.
And they have great coffee, just so you know, if you're just looking for coffee, you can go there as well. So,
and we serve breakfast all day.
Hey, there we go. So, Andy, Michelle, thank you for joining me on the Femdom Mystique podcast.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you for having us. Yeah.
So, listeners, if you are in the St. Louis area and are looking for a warm, wonderful community place to go to, I highly recommend Shameless Grounds. This is your hostess with the mostest. Way too much whiskey. Signing off of our interview episode in January 2018 with the owners of Shameless Grounds in Missouri. Look forward to next month when I will be surprising you with a new topic and a new interview. Signing off. Thank you.